Gentlemen, I have gathered you all here today because you have been besmirched in the public eye. You have all been painted the villain, which I do not believe that you are. You have been rooted against, made to look the enemy to a more likeable person. Well, I take umbrage with that statement. This so-called protagonist being more likeable and a much nicer guy. Well, I reject it. We have a man being compared to a literal superhero. We have a man who is only there to provide being compared to a criminal defense lawyer and still losing. Even James Bond not being safe. The person that was chosen over him was a man who had 14 years of marriage to prove himself, but it only takes a divorce for him to be there for his family. But I am here to fight for you, and hopefully show you all a way out of this mess. And, oh, what do we have here? Another man. Now, who are you in competition with? Oh, for fuck's sake. If you've watched any film with a love story in it, you would have seen this trope. Boy loves girl, girl already with other boy. The reason why filmmakers keep on trying to do this is, well, up in the air. Whether it is them expressing their own unrequited love, but in this version they manage to win over the girl of their dreams as they finally decide that they should be with the nice guy all along. Maybe it's just adding an extra layer to the storytelling and giving the hero yet another obstacle to overcome. As consistent as it is, I think it's about time that we stick up for the little guy in these scenarios. So I've got 4 brilliant examples, so let's see who gets royally fucked over. Liar Liar focuses on Jim Carrey, who is a lawyer available for hire when his situation turns dire when his son makes a wish so he can't liar, making him think he's going to get fired. And in the words of Danny Dyer, get up to a little bit of mischief.
You stuffed her like a Thanksgiving turkey!
Fairly early on in the runtime, it is soon established that Jim Carrey cheated on his wife, and that's why they're no longer together. We are shown that he is quite clearly an absentee father. He forgets his own son's fucking birthday, but relies on his receptionist to buy him a present. He constantly makes promises he can't keep. For whatever reason, decides to choose work over going to see wrestling. And he has his son's birthday party, which he has been reminded of. He's been given a present, but instead he chooses to have sex. And in comes Carrie Yules, the stepdad of your dreams. When your biological dad says no to playing catch, guess who's there? Does he make promises? Yes, he does. Does he keep them? Also, yes, he does. Clearly a family man who wants to settle down and provide. Clearly loving both her and the child, he proposes very early on and even invites them to stay with him in Boston for his job. Now granted, he's probably on the spectrum considering he cannot read body language at all, but he knows deep down he's not enough, and he even tries to do the claw to help the family transition a bit smoother and put the child at ease. Now imagine you're Carrie. Even for a second. You are what you believe to be a happy relationship. The love of your life has agreed to marry you and also agree to move to Boston for your terrific career opportunity, and you can finally fly off to your happily ever after. Does she tell you before she gets on the plane? No, she doesn't. Does she tell you on the car journey over? Maybe not. How about when you're stood on the runway and she confesses that she can't split up the family, I'll just go back to my ex-husband instead. The ex-husband that doesn't give to the homeless. The ex-husband that is somehow surprised that he loves and wants to spend time with his son.
My son!
He's been done dirty there. Does this seem like a happy man?
Thank you.
Since we're on the topic of men being led on by women who they thought loved them, let's get up to bat for Spider-Man's arch nemesis. No, not that dude with the arms. Yeah, that one. Spider-Man 2 quite obviously focuses on a Spider-Man who is desperately trying to juggle their superhero life with their ordinary life. But the real hero for me has got to be the handsome, the heroic, the delicious
Captain John Jameson.
John is quite clearly enamoured with Mary Jane. He goes to see her show about 5 times. He wears teeny tiny NASA t-shirts and remembers your friend's name.
Peter Parker?
Oh, positive.
Thought he was your pal.
Yeah, John, her pal. The very man with the same expression that can only be described as Prince Andrew looking at a child's playground. I'm sure you wouldn't be saying pal if you knew in the not-so-distant past she was eye-fucking her neighbour while they were taking out garbage, the most romantic setting. I'm sure John would be at least a little unsettled if he knew that she was constantly recreating a kiss from a former love. He was nice enough to invite the pal to the wedding. The pal that she gave one last ultimatum to whether or not to declare his love whilst she was wearing the wedding ring. And I want to keep this video PG, but how are you going to be satisfied if your boy Peter can't even shoot ropes? Following the climax of the film, once the dust and rubble has settled, John, without any superpowers, sprints out of the police car, running towards Mary Jane just to make sure she's safe. He's so happy to see her, gives her a close embrace, and what's this? The neighbours are eye-fucking again. Peter, the only garbage around here is you. Swing away, dude. It now leaves Mary Jane in the awkward situation on her big wedding day, and she's quite clearly having second thoughts and what we've seen previously for quite some time. She could have told John before the big day, but maybe they didn't have the time. She still puts on the wedding dress to make sure that everyone else knows that she is going to get married, lets the bridal and groom party get together, fills the church with all the family and friends, and delivers a note to John instead of telling him in person. So not only is he left at the altar, he has to read the most heartbreaking note in front of everybody that he knows. Also, imagine being MJ's bridesmaid. Like, you've been her friend for so long and she tasks you with delivering that note in front of everybody, all while you go gleefully frolicking through Central Park. Man, fuck that. Justice for John. I bet he would have attempted to stop that mugging, even without any powers. I'm sure he would know to take the lens cap off without being a professional photographer. And I bet his stomach is full of hors d'oeuvres, not like this slowpoke. Don't worry, John. Surprisingly, there is yet another man who was cast aside, coming second place to somebody who lives a double life and likes to play dress-up. Mrs. Doubtfire focuses on a voice actor who is going through a divorce with their wife. When he doesn't get custody of the children, his ploy to get back into their lives is to dress up as an old British woman. Yeah, that sounds kind of silly when you think about it.
Mr. Fingerbottom?
Mrs.
Of course, every film needs an antagonist, someone for our hero to be put up against, and who do they choose as this boyfriend not worth the time of day and can be easily forgotten about? James Bond? The film is very purposeful through its runtime, depicting him as the enemy trying to rip his family away from him. But on a rewatch, he really does nothing wrong. Right out of the gate, he states that he wants nothing but Sally Field's happiness. He's a working man with a stable income, and when he's speaking candidly with his friend, not knowing anybody is listening, he's speaking about how crazy about her children he is and how lucky he feels.
3 terrific kids, and I'm crazy about them, especially that little Natalie. Look at her.
Not only that, he gives great gifts and can also do this sick-ass dive. He is not quick to anger, as he is verbally insulted and physically assaulted throughout the film. All this done by the so-called hero. And while we're on the topic, this hero had 14 years of marriage and doesn't take his wife's feelings into account, always making her the bad guy. When he's feeling down, he wishes death and dysentery to the person that's wronged him. His only plan to get a stronger connection with his children is to come up with a plan that is probably the most traumatizing thing ever, when his youngest daughter sees the face melt off the maid that she spent a lot of time with. Granted, that big reveal was when he actually was being a hero, performing the Heimlich to save the day. But he was the one that poisoned the food? You could have killed him, dude. Maybe you should use a lot of this outward energy to focus on teaching your children about gender identity.
Lady, come on. You gotta call the cops. We gotta dial 911 now.
Why?
Well, Mrs. Doubtfire. He's a she. He's a she.
What?
Like, what hate crime is she going to do with that racket? It's a great thing that Robin Williams is incredibly charming, as it pulls the wool over your eyes when he depicts a character that knows if he gets caught, he's going to get arrested.
Because if she finds out, I'll only be able to see her through plate glass.
Whilst the film doesn't finish with Sally Field and Robin Williams getting back together, it doesn't justify the straight-up mistreatment that Pierce Bronson feels throughout the entire runtime. Granted, he may have dodged a bullet, as Sally Field's character uses the opportunity following the divorce, following her gaining sole custody of the kids, ignoring the fact that Robin Williams works in a volatile industry, decides to make fun of his apartment.
Oh, Daniel. Charming.
I take that back, Sally Field. Anyone would be lucky to have you. We are now finishing on the worst example of this. Poor sorry Ken, who is gaslit by the entire world that, one, it's not weird that there's talking bees, and two, that a bee is stealing his girlfriend. And a bee that's not only a different species, but is also racially insensitive.
Get a gold tooth and start calling everybody dog.
I'm so proud.
The bee that doesn't even want to work and wants to become a balloon artist.
That's a bad job for a guy with a stinger.
And a running theme from Mrs. Doubtfire also needs to learn about gender identity.
This is your queen? That's a man in woman's clothes.
Ken also seems extra wary that the bee's persecution of the humans could have vast environmental impact, but granted, expect nothing less from the guy that predicted global warming.
I could feel it getting hotter. First I thought it was just me.
I mean, what's wrong with Ken? He's got a CV that folds, he's got winter boots. He's not just going to let you win at games and actually give you a bit of a challenge. If a bee can be chosen over that, then we're all screwed. Granted, he does try to murder Jerry Seinfeld bee, but he is allergic and one sting could kill him. These events lead his brochure to be utterly ruined. He comes home after a long day at work to find his partner basically cheating on him, having a nice romantic sit-down meal, all while Jerry Seinfeld bee is sat in his spot. He does lash out in anger, but wouldn't you be annoyed? I think he's just confused by it all.
And he happens to be the nicest bee I've met in a long time.
Long time? What are you talking about? Are there other bugs in your life?
The man is having a mental breakdown, and we're supposed to be rooting for the relationship of a bee trying to have sex with Bridget Jones. All he wanted was yogurt night.
Why is yogurt night so difficult?
I think it's fair to say that all the men in the previous examples are the losers, clearly not getting their desired outcome. I now think that they just fumbled the bag, however, when we look at the goat of forgotten boyfriends who managed to claw his way out of that distinction, Vinny Chase in The Devil Wears Prada. The film focuses on Anne Hathaway, who is thrust into the fashion industry when she gets a receptionist job for the bossy Meryl Streep. Now, instead of another man, it is now an occupation that is forcing Vinny Chase to be forgotten. It has ruined their work-life balance and they just don't spend enough time together, even though this is an incredible opportunity for her, and if she plays her cards right, she will never have to work again and retire early. The genius at work tactfully mopes throughout the entire runtime, making Anne Hathaway increasingly more guilty, all leading up to the fact where she throws away this illustrious career just to have a relationship with him, even though said relationship will be moving to another city, where he's got a new job as a sous chef. And as we all know, sous chefs have incredible work-life balance, and he'll be able to spend every waking moment with her. How did he do it? The man's a god. Now we're at the end of the video. I think the main point here is to think twice when you're watching a film where the hero is actively pursuing somebody already in a relationship. And to all the forgotten boyfriends within the video, they need to take after Vinny Chase and learn how to emotionally manipulate their partner just so they can have a happy future. Granted, we can't entirely blame the heroes for pursuing taken individuals. Maybe it's all the woman's fault. Wait, I'll draw the wrong kind of crowd. Joke's over, go home. If you've made it to the end of this video and you're not a friend or family member, I'd just like to say thank you, and if you could please consider liking and subscribing. Maybe even commenting down below on a few examples you might have picked up. On the screen now is a list of video sources I used throughout. I'll put a link down below to a playlist so you can also give them a view, only to be fair. Now, with all that being said, I'll leave you with a perfect example on how Instagram has warped my brain, as this part in the B movie really jumped out at me.
I can't breathe!